And then just thinking about lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. As always, thinking about lengthening our spine up towards the ceiling, and just close your eyes a moment and let's take some deep breathing. So breathing in through the nose, noticing, observing where the breath goes, and then breathing out through the mouth as if you're blowing out gently through a straw. And again, noticing the reaction in your body when you take that nice deep breath out. So breath in and breath out. 2 more of those. If you can, close your eyes. Today is going to be all about checking in with yourself, finding what's going on in your body, noticing what's going on in your body in a very subtle way, which we can't really do when we're jumping around a lot and when we're taking big whole body movements. So this is a bit of a different type of class for me as well. So let's just take 1 more big breath in. Hopefully you're noticing that the rib cage is expanding sideways. Hopefully you're noticing that the shoulders aren't lifting up. They might be, that's absolutely fine. And then when you breathe out, you're noticing a drawing down, a connecting, a closing down of the rib cage. Ideally, maybe lift the pelvic floor a little bit off of the seat of the chair on that out breath. So you're connecting everything into your centre. When we come to the floor work in the second half, we're going to think about that marble analogy. So you've got that marble in the centre of your torso. And then let's take a look at shoulders. So we're sitting tall all the way through. You're just going to let your shoulders round forwards, and then in fact just find your natural position, which is probably a tiny bit rounded forwards. And then we just want to just activate the muscles around the shoulder blades in the back. So if my hands are on your shoulder blades, just on that outside edge of your shoulder blades, to pin those shoulders slightly back and then let them relax. So don't go very far. And don't worry if you can't really feel anything, you can't feel any muscles switching on here. It's very common. But this is why we spend a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time banging on about the muscles around the shoulder blades. We want the shoulder blades to be flat against the rib cage wall. We don't want this collarbone to be rounded. We want it to be broad, the chest is open. Always counteracting that our modern day life, which puts us here. So let's just let's exaggerate that a little bit more. So explore how far you can go all the way forwards with your shoulders. Find that middle point. Remember, from the side, your middle point is your shoulder in line with your ear, if you were going that way. And then pin them all the way back. Middle point, forwards all the way. And notice as well that the ribs join in a little bit. So the box, if you like, of my rib cage is now shifting forwards and backwards a little bit as well. And then let's take them, so that was sort of keeping them on the same plane. Let's take them up towards the ears as far as you can, and then draw down towards the hips. Up towards the ears and draw down towards the hips. So shoulder shrug, I call this. Quite like to do this when you're on all fours. When we forget our upper body posture, the shoulders tend to start to creep up. And each time you're drawing the shoulders down, think of lengthening the top of that head up towards the ceiling. Imagine I'm putting my hand, just hovering it above your head, so you can just feel that different, there's something different in the air above your head, and you're just trying to reach the top of your head up to touch that hand and to make that connection there. Great, so we've gone up and we've gone forwards and back, up and down, forwards and back. Let's now go around in a great big circle. So if you do class with me regularly, you'll be very familiar with this movement. I always start with this movement. I just love it. It just gets everything for me, gets me just in the right frame of mind, gets those shoulders going. So trying to think about that top of your shoulder. Imagine you've got a sticker on there and you're circling that top of that shoulder, that luminous sticker. You're making the biggest circle you can at that point. And hopefully you should be noticing that the back of the neck, top of the shoulders at the back are getting very warm. Let's do a little single, one each way, all going backwards. We want to constantly counteract that forward position. And I'm remaining tall as I can, keeping that length in the spine all the way through. Okay, so let's stretch that neck out. So just what's quite nice when you're sitting on a chair is just to reach down to one side with your hand. And I have to, because this chair is quite deep actually, I would have to tilt a little bit to grab hold of the bottom a bit. So I'm just going to take hold of the piping around the edge, but I'm just making a bit of contact with my right hand, doesn't matter which hand you're going, but just lean away from that hand that's connected. Just maybe put the other one in your lap. And you should feel a really nice strong stretch on the neck there. And then coming upright and releasing. Let's swap sides. Pull down a little bit, take hold of the underneath side of that chair, but not if you have to tilt your shoulders, so make sure you're staying nice and square. Tissue box is, as always, all in the correct position. And breathing, most importantly, close your eyes, breathe, take your time today. This is all about you just exploring, taking a bit of time out, and then come up to square. Let's go back to the first side. So lean away again, and if you imagine as we do this, you're just tilting over to the side. And then you're going to take your chin on a diagonal line. So I'm lifting my chin, the diagonal line is going from this shoulder up to that top corner, but staying in the tilt. So I'm lifting, rotating my head, and then rotating and drawing my chin down towards this shoulder. It's quite a strong stretch. And breathing, keeping those shoulders still. About 4 of each one. When you've had enough, come back to face front. Maybe release the hand on the chair and then come upright. Let's try that on the other side. So over to the side, connect with the hand again. And if that's too strong for you today, then just stick with the last one. Or do something else that feels appropriate. Your body will actually tell you what it needs. Most of the time, especially in exercise classes, we just do blindly what the teacher is asking us to do without really listening to the body. So drawing that diagonal line, facing the front again, so you just come back to the tilt without any rotation, releasing the hand, coming up to the centre. Ooh, it feels nice. So we're going to take a seated roll down, but before we do that, let's again just touch the edge of the chair, both sides, and let's just take the first part of a roll down, which is just your head. Imagine your head is going up and over, and then you're just dropping that chin down onto your chest, but keeping the shoulders absolutely still, so they're not joining in, as you will do in a moment when we try and take a roll down. So I'm just letting my head hang, and even that actually is quite a nice stretch. I'm just lightly pulling down equally on both sides onto the underneath of the chair, and then I'm going to just again think of the line of my chin is drawing, turn my head from side to side. This is really quite a strong stretch,
And you maybe, maybe too much with those hands hanging onto the bottom of the chair. Maybe just place your hands on your thighs, maybe just the weight of your head is enough. But make sure that you're not here, make sure that you're not just a halfway up. This is me, I haven't actually fully let that head go as far as it can. Now it's gone as far as it can, and then I'm going to rotate from side to side. And then coming back to the centre always and coming up to the top. Great, so let's take a seated roll down. I'm just going to turn mine sideways actually, I've just realised because I can. So when you're seated in your chair, your spine is in its natural curve, so we're right up on our sit bones, shoulders are above the hips. And we're going to take a seated roll down, so you're not going to be able to stick your bottom back behind you. So I want you to really think about keeping your pelvis still. So maybe place one hand in front and one hand behind around that pelvis, just to make sure that nothing changes. So we always start our roll down with that head movement that we just did. So the chin goes onto the chest, and then I'm keeping this still by pulling my belly button in a little bit. It's like I'm trying to draw a chalk line down the centre of my torso. You will get quite a strong stretch out in your lower back. So we haven't got the weight of the arms here today either to add to this roll down, but it feels slightly odd from here. When you've gone as far as you can, I want you to start to stack the vertebrae, one on top of the other, until you're coming up into your neutral position. From your neutral position, we're going to take that upper back, we're going to lift the chest up and over, and just look up to the ceiling. And then come through neutral. So sometimes, let's do 3 or 4 of those. Sometimes I use the analogy, let's start with the chest lift actually. I use the analogy of you're following a spider. So I'm starting in my eyeline level with my in tall good posture, spine is in neutral. I'm going to lift my chest, that spider is going up the wall in front of me, it's onto the ceiling, it's coming towards me on the ceiling. I'm lifting my chest, I'm not letting that head drop back, it shouldn't be uncomfortable on your neck at all, I'm just increasing this curve a little bit. If you do that, the moment you do that, your face will scrunch up, you know you've gone too far. So we're there, and then follow the spider away, along the ceiling, down the wall, come back to your neutral position. The spider is directly level with your eyes in that position. Now take the roll down, head goes down, so you're following the spider down the wall. This time it's coming along the floor towards you. Take that head as far as it can go, keep the pelvis still, allow your upper body to just unravel. Maybe have your hands lightly placed on your legs as far as you can, and then stacking the vertebrae again. Let's just take one more full one of these. Trying to really go through every single vertebrae. So I'm back to neutral and I'm going to continue up. Lifting the chest, not allowing that head to roll back. I'm really conscious of keeping my pelvis where it was, not leaning back. Following that spider back down the wall again. Find your neutral, be aware of where it is. It's coming down the wall onto the floor. The head only is going. Shoulders haven't joined in yet. The head needs to go as far as it can. Then unravel your spine. Feeling that nice stretch out in that lower back. The weight pitches forwards a little bit, it's absolutely fine. Keeping that belly button pulled in tight. Stack the vertebrae one on top of the other, just coming up and back to a nice neutral position. Good. Great. Okay, let's take some dumb waiter, this is called. So sometimes it's done with a band, but it's quite a nice movement to do without the band. So
we're still standing, sitting really tall. So this, you might even be starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable in your back if you're not used to sitting tall for this length of time. And it's a good thing to do. We're building the endurance in those muscles. So I'm tucking my elbows into my side seam. They're making contact with my ribs. I've brought my hands are forwards, palms are up, my hands are opposite my elbows. From here, I'm going to keep my elbows glued to my sides, and I'm going to open my arms out, and I'm wincing a little bit because this is quite uncomfortable for me. I was watching my Pilates teacher do this movement, the other day, and she's got great mobility in her shoulders, so she ended up with her arms, I can't keep my elbows in, but they were this way, they were all the way out to the side. If that's you, then great, but make sure you keep those elbows tucked in. So I'm only going, by keeping the elbows tucked in, I'm taking the rotation in that shoulder joint and only that far. All about isolating the muscles. If you're anything like me, it's a little bit uncomfortable. So as well, watch that those elbows aren't too far back, glue them and keep them quite forwards, glue them into your side. So that's called the dumb waiter. Let's take the same sort of thinking about rotation in the shoulder joint. Let arms down by your side. Spread your fingers and thumbs far apart, and let's rotate thumbs outwards. So start with your palms facing in. Rotate the thumbs outwards. So feel the rotation happening at the wrist. Then feel a little bit of connection around the elbow maybe. And then the last part of this movement with the arm quite straight is to feel that twist in the shoulder joint. So your thumbs are all the way out to the side, and then just pin the arms back a little bit. And again, this might be quite uncomfortable. So when I say pin them back, I'm pinning back, I'm going past my side seam. And then allow the arm to come back to your side seam and relax. And then let the shoulder just round forwards a little bit to release. Let's do a couple more of those. So arms around by your side. So first of all, pin the shoulder back, set everything, sitting up nice and tall. Spread thumbs out, spread the fingers and the thumbs far apart. Rotate at the wrist first, then the elbow. Then you'll start to feel the shoulder blades sort of drawing down as a reaction to this, which is good. And then just pinning those arms back, holding it there and breathing. And releasing and rotating. Let's do one more of those with the arms low. So we're rotating, pinning the shoulder tips back. When you've rotated as much as possible, then just reach the arms back past your side seam. Same sort of thing. Let's bring the arms out to the side. So palms are down, fingers and thumbs still outstretched. Let's rotate the hands again, so the thumbs are up to the ceiling. Continue rotating the hands, and then you'll feel that torque in the elbow, and then all the way up into the shoulders. So it comes into the shoulders first, and then you start to feel, oh, okay, the muscles around the shoulder blades are hanging on here. They've switched on. They're activated. So I'm trying to turn my thumbs back even more. And then let's release and turn the palms down. Let's do one more of those. Thumbs up, rotating out, all the way here. This is strong work. It's a little bit uncomfortable. Let's go to, do we want to do that here? Let's just take that rotation, one more rotation outwards. Thumbs are backwards, palms up to the ceiling, trying to go a little bit more. Just see how far you can raise those arms up without the backs of the shoulders, your upper traps joining in. And I'm actively, as I'm taking my arms up, drawing my shoulder blades down in the opposite direction. I can really feel the muscles in my back kicking in here. And then lowering and relaxing. Brilliant. Give everything a bit of a shake if you need to. Okay, into some shoulder tracing. So this is where we're going to bring the elbows out to the side, and you're going to bring your thumbs up the side seam of your top. And the idea here is that we're getting the sequence in the shoulder correct, so that you don't end up again lifting up the backs of the shoulders when you're lifting your arms up every time. So we're drawing the shoulders down. So thumbs to the side seam, and we're trying to just lift the elbows. So my thumbs are sort of in my armpits now, hands are relaxed, wrists are relaxed. I'm now trying to lift my elbows higher than my shoulders. And as I do that, and then come back down again, so there's a point about halfway, so I can get to here really comfortably, haven't got to worry about anything. About from here upwards, I have to sort of put my shoulder blades into gear. And then hands are relaxed, elbows are high, and we're there. Let's continue this movement all the way on, up to the ceiling, extend the arms up, keeping those shoulder blades drawn down, turn your palms to face forwards, come into a capital E position. So elbows are slightly lower than your shoulders, have a little look each side. Great. And then from here, so this is our capital E, we're going to extend the arms up into a V. So we're there. Shoulders, I'm still activating those shoulders, drawing them down, shoulder blades in the back, drawing down. Here, watch that the elbows don't tip back. Push them, actively push them forwards. Try and keep the wrists straight, so there's no tipping back, flipping back at the fingers. From this position, actually no, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to I'm going to keep my arms in the same shape, so keep them bent the same shape. I'm now drawing my elbows into my sides. Now I can really feel those muscles around my shoulder blades working. This is what I call the W, sort of a W if you look, ish. So elbows are in. So we've got those three positions now. So lift the elbows up, come to your capital E, keep those elbows pushing forwards. Now extend the arms up, breathing, keep breathing, sitting tall all the way through. Just twiddle your fingertips for me, keep those shoulders relaxed, back of the neck relaxed. One more set, capital E, come into the W. And again, we're trying to not let those elbows flap out. Push them forwards. Bring your hands back. Last one. Come back to your capital E. And then we're going to bring the elbows together and the forearms together if you can. So from this, I'm just going to turn sideways. So you're just going to bring them forwards. Elbows and little fingers together. This is still a right angle. It's like you're in front of a door frame here. So you're there. Hands are in front of you. In fact, I'm going to go slightly to this corner so I can see what you're up to. Not that I can, but you know what I mean. Elbows are squeezing together if you can. So this is a mid-back stretch. Try not to let this happen. Draw those shoulder blades down, squeeze those elbows together. And then from here, if you can, take a little pulse up towards the ceiling. And let's go all the way up, opening out to your capital E, and then bring your arms down by your side. Great job. Let's have a little slump while I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, straight arm raises. It's hard work, all this sitting up tall all the way through. Okay, so straight arm raises. I did them last night with the roller, so I'm just going to go sideways. So just bring your arms out in front, relatively easy. Your goal is to lift your arms up, stretching at the front of the shoulder, no flaring of the ribs, and you're just going to try and push those arms back a little bit past your ear if you can. So past your plumb line, try not to poke the head forwards and then lower. Let's do that again. So reaching up, taking those arms back, pulsing 2 or 3 times, check your breathing. One more. So what I'm really focusing on here, so imagine this is like your ribcage closure when you're lying on your back. I'm not allowing my ribs or my ribcage to move with this arm. I'm connecting, I'm drawing down with the ribs. In fact, just try this one time. Just put one hand on your rib cage, underneath that, sort of towards that side of that you've got the arm up. Let that arm go, push it back without letting the rib flare, swap sides. So you're connecting, you're closing down the rib cage towards the hips. And interestingly, I don't know about you, but I can go much further when I've got my hand here. Just sort of, it's like the hand is pushing, helping to push, helping to stay, keep that rib cage still. Yeah, I quite like that. Good. Straight arm raises. Yes, here's a nice one. So hopefully some of this you might remember, and just, you know, throughout the day, take some of these stretches to just, especially if you're sitting at a desk working all day, yeah, just take some of these stretches. So we're going to just pin, you're going to take hold of the back of your chair. Again, if you haven't got a chair with a suitable back for this, you can just place your hands in the small of your back, and you're going to try and pin the elbows back and pin those shoulders back a little bit. But if you can, take hold of the back of the chair, if you've got one like I have, and I'm pinning my elbows back, I'm holding on. In fact, I want to be a little bit lower. Yeah, play about with where so if you've got your hands up too high, that's making my shoulders round forwards. It doesn't feel very comfortable at all. So I want to sit tall, I've got my hands quite low, but arms are bent, and then I'm able to pin elbows back together. Strong old stretch across the front of the chest. And like I say, if that's not suitable in the chair that you're in, you can just go here. Yeah. Good. Okay. We are going to take some chest pops. So hands at the back of the head, pushing the head into the hands, elbows are forwards. This is all, again, I do this when I'm standing in class, one of the 10 things to do every day. We're all about trying to mobilise this thoracic spine, trying to fold over here. The back of my chair is way too high for this, but if you've got one that's a little bit lower, and you can, the chair over there would work, but you can get that, your back, just so it needs to be sort of just around your shoulder blade, the tips of your shoulder blades, and then you could go over the back of the chair. Whichever one you're doing, think about hinging from here, folding from here, trying not to let the ribs flare too much. They will, because they have to, but don't go too crazy. And also, because we're seated, you can't drive your hips forwards. So you've only got a limited amount of movement. And again, it will feel a bit different, like the seated roll down. Watch that the head isn't moving in the hands. Keep it all still. Keep that pressure there. Head into the hands, and we're there. Fantastic. Great. Only two more exercises to go on the chair. You might be glad to hear about that. So we're going to take a side bend. Again, what's really nice here is to hold on to the bottom of that chair. So lifting one arm up, the other arm is hanging onto the bottom of the chair, and you're going to reach away, and actually because I'm tilting, now I can really get hold of the underneath of my chair. I'm going to reach away with this top arm up, really stretching down the side sleeve of my back. What I'm trying not to do is let that sit bone lift. So I'm actually almost pushing down a little bit more. And in fact, I'm finding I'm not really needing to hang on here. If I hang on too much, that's tipping me over in my hips. Let's try the other side. So shoulders down, lift up first, and then all the way over. Yeah, that's really quite hard. Okay, here's the thing. I've just discovered this. I'm preferring. Let's go back to the first side. I'm going to push down on the chair. So rather than pulling underneath, I found that pulling underneath made this hip lift up too much, or I wanted to lift up that hip. So I'm going to push down on this side, so that I'm almost pushing the opposite sit bone into the chair, and then I'm lifting rib cage off of hips. Yeah, that feels nicer. Relaxing this shoulder, and that's giving me a much better stretch actually. Really thinking about stretching down that side seam of your back, let the head go, breathe, and coming up, one more on the other side. So lift the rib cage off of the hips, shoulders are down and level. As I go over, I'm pushing into this hand on the top of the seat, and I'm pushing my opposite sit bone down, making sure that those hips don't lift, otherwise you feel like you're going to fall off the chair as well. But also watching that this shoulder isn't up around your ears. Let that shoulder draw down. Yeah, it's one of those things where you're sort of pushing and pulling in all different directions. Let's take one more of those. So back to your first side. Come up over to the side. This is slightly weird. I'm going to flex my hand. So I'm just going to think about pushing the heel of my palm forwards. And from here, I'm going to push back with this sort of upper quarter of my back. And as I do that, I'm going to reach this heel of the palm towards the opposite window. And then coming upright. We'll do 4 of these. So up over to the side slightly. Don't go too far, not as far as we did. So you shouldn't need to hang on to the chair too much. From here, so I'm stretching sideways. I'm going to push this back corner away, and I'm going to reach over there. It's like I'm rounding my upper back. Let's do one more each side. I'm going to do this side again. I'm going to show you from the sideways. So go back to your first side. So we're lifting. You're going sideways, so nothing's changed at the moment. And then I'm pushing back here with this part. It's a really strong stretch on that part of your back. And I'm reaching this hand, top hand away in the opposite direction. Feels quite nice. One more. Don't worry which side you're on. Over to the side, make sure you're really sideways, and then push away. Flex that hand. And breathe. And coming up. Excellent. Okay, last one. Seated spinal rotation. One of our 10 things to do every day. A fantastic thing to do when you're sitting in a chair. I'm just going to come a little bit more forwards, and I'm going to bring, so my feet are nice and flat, so I've only got little legs. I'm going to bring my feet and knees together and squeeze my feet and knees together. Sitting really, really upright. I'm going to place one hand behind my back. You could hang on to the chair if that works, depending on how the back of the chair is. But basically I want to keep my spine upright. I'm going to take the opposite hand onto the opposite leg. So I've got my right hand going onto my left knee. I'm fixing my legs in position, fixing my hips in position, staying really upright and rotating around. I'm using the back of the chair. I've actually moved my hand to go more to the side. And I'm just rotating around as far as I can, keeping those legs still. So there's a lovely, and then relaxing. There's a lovely sense of torque by placing this opposite hand on the leg so that you can use that to push you around. Holding on to the chair at the back, but watch that you don't lean. So try and be as upright as possible. Watch that there's no twisting in the pelvis, so don't end up with one knee longer than the other. Here we go to the other side. So noticing which is your tighter side. Breathing, most importantly. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then release. Let's just do one more of those. You will be able to go a little bit further. Breathe, relax. Set yourself up really well. So even then, because I'm thinking about getting to the back of the chair, I started to lean then. Sit bones level, feet and knees squeezed together. Opposite hand is there. I've created a little bit of tension already. Then I'm going to find the back of the chair, making sure I'm staying really, really upright. And yes, I've gone further than that first time. Breathing, holding. Every single out breath, feeling like I'm growing taller. One more to the other side. Opposite hand to the outside of the leg. Stay really sitting tall, sit bones equally weighted. On your tighter side you'll cheat more. This is my tighter side, I can feel myself twisting, not being quite as upright, and breathe. And relax and come back to the centre. Brilliant, have a little slump. Let's get rid of those chairs. We're going to come down to the floor for a gentle floor work section. Fabulous, okie doke. So coming down to the floor, let's start on all fours. So because today's emphasis is shoulders, we're going to carry on with some shoulder rolls. Really nice position to do your shoulder rolls in. Your all fours square box position. So knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders, spreading the fingers and the thumbs far apart. We're going to take that circle, that shoulder roll that we did standing, and the difference now when you're on all fours is that you can control how much weight you're putting through your shoulders. So if you were to come back here a little bit more, that's relatively easy. There's not too much stress going through my shoulders. But if I'm actually much further forwards, it's also stronger on the wrists as well. I've got much more sort of feedback, if you like, about what's going on in the shoulders. So let's go in both directions. So at the moment I'm going forwards, then I'm going to change my direction. So the arms stay straight. All the movement is happening around that shoulder girdle. So this is both arms, both shoulders even, moving at the same time, same pace. And now I'm going to use this one closest to you first, and I'm just going to keep the other arm in position, but I'm not focusing on it at all. I'm going to try and take some single shoulder rolls. I've just slightly released my elbow on the other arm. It feels quite weird. And as always in this class today, just be mindful. Listen to your body. Notice, how does it feel? Try and change direction if you can. So if nothing else, today's class will have got blood flow, healing juices to all the muscles around your shoulder socket. I'm going to change sides. So I'm just slightly releasing this elbow so I forget about it, if you like. Keeping the arm that you're moving, keeping that arm straight. So this is my not so great shoulder. But I did notice, I did some of this stuff on Monday, I did notice yesterday my shoulders were feeling much better. Change in direction. And taking a little rest back. Come down onto your elbows if you can. Twiddle those fingers and thumbs. Have a little sway from side to side. Not quite see my notes. I'm just going to put that there. And then we're going to work in this position if you can for a little bit. So bring your toes together, your big toes together. Open up your knees nice and wide. And stretch your hips back on your heels. And then if you can, reach your arms forwards at least as wide as your mat, shoulder width apart. If this isn't available to you because of knees and you can't get your hips all the way back to your heels without being uncomfortable, then by all means just be on your elbows, but just be where you need to be for your body. If you are doing this and you're sort of halfway between the two positions, not kneeling up or all the way back, make sure you're kneeling evenly. So make sure your legs are symmetrical, if you like. So if you can, hips all the way back to the heels, arms all the way stretched out forwards, And here we go again. This is a chest stretch, the front of the chest. It should feel really nice. Press the chest down towards the floor and take what I call a slightly mad sway from side to side. And making sure that you're breathing. So I'm taking my ear towards my inside of my elbow. And it feels nice, it feels strong around the front of the chest, the armpits. Brilliant. Let's walk the hands round. So I'm going to walk my hands, both hands towards the camera, towards you. I'm coming all the way round to this side, going as far as I can until you get a really strong stretch down the side seam of your back. And then just hold that there if you can. And breathe. It's a really strong stretch. It's almost like a burning stretch. It's quite odd. And then if you can, just take some pops here. Like we do the chest pops, take some back pops. Lift and lower, just in that upper back. Make sure you're breathing. And then let's walk the hands back round through to the centre, go to the other side. Go as far as you can. I'm going to have to move over a little bit. Until you feel that connection, that stretch in your lats. So I can't move initially, I have to stay here for a little bit and just hold it. Because it's a really strong stretch down the side seam of your back. Once it's eased off a little bit, I'm going to add the back pops. Always, 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 always breathing, relaxing within this. Let's finish off one more stretch. This is a really great stretch for the shoulder. It can potentially be quite uncomfortable. It's threading the needle, but just for a stretching movement. So from this wide arm position, I'm going to take my furthest hand away from you towards the camera. I'm going to thread it through and then lie down on that shoulder, stretching that arm through. The back of the hand is on the floor. Once you've got into position, if you can, rest your head down. You might not be able to, you might be up here. If you're there, then just rotate and stretch through, do as much as you can. You might even need to be on this elbow. But if you can, relax your head all the way down, turn your head all the way to the side, stretch that top arm away as well, and then just take a gentle, this is very strong, roll over that shoulder socket. It's a very strong stretch on the outside of your shoulder joint. And like I say, this is my tighter side, but it's actually feeling quite nice because I did something similar the other day on Monday when I was looking up the shoulder stuff. All to the other side, stretching through. Stretch the top arm away. Notice for yourself, is it tighter this way? Holding it there. You could just stay here and breathe. You don't even need to take the extra movement if you don't want to. When you stay here and breathe, you'll be thinking about stretching between the shoulder blades. It's like your breath will expand and make that stretch happen. Fantastic. Coming back to lying on your backs. So we're running out of time rapidly. I'm going to do I think I'm going to
continue with the work on the shoulders and the upper body, but just lying on your back. So there's a couple of more things I had in here, some pelvic stability and bits and pieces, but I'm going to skip those today, so that we just work in that shoulder joint all the way through. So lie down on your backs. Where do I sing the turn out? Yeah. So lie down on your backs in the base position. So feet and knees hip width apart, your spine in its natural curves. Back of the head heavy. Everything in place. Just take a moment or two. So generally when I really want to be in a good neutral position, and when I'm doing this sort of class and it's much more gentle and a slower pace, I like to sort of wiggle bits around until I find that middle space. So I just felt the need then to just let my legs roll from side to side until I find the middle space of where my pelvis is equally weighted either side of my spine. You might want to take a pelvic tuck under to find your neutral pelvis, knowing that you're not too tucked under here. You've got that natural curve, pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane. You might want to just wiggle the shoulders around a little bit. So because we're focusing on shoulders, let's really think about position of the head, back of head and the back of your head, the bulky part of your skull, ideally nice and heavy in the floor. If you need to use a head pillow, that's absolutely fine, but try not to if you can help it. But whatever you do absolutely do not be lifted too much with this chin. Our goal is to try and lengthen the back of the neck, but you're never going to lose this natural curve there, that's absolutely fine. Think about your ribs. So I can feel myself, because I was thinking then about lifting the chin, I could feel my ribs at the back, my lower ribs below my shoulder blades. There's like this amount of ribs on your back, and they're all lifted off the floor, and my ribs at the front are flared. That's the test. So I'm going to just soften them, try and relax them. I'm not forcing down, I'm not working really hard at the front, but I'm just letting that relax, letting it sort of melt into the floor. And then I've still got natural curve in the lower back. Let's think about the collarbone being open. Just place your arms by your side, maybe palms up to the ceiling, backs of the hands on the floor, tucking that chin in. Explore that thing that we did when we were seated. The very first thing we did, actually, apart from the breathing, was we noticed that the shoulders tend to tip forwards, and if I'm completely relaxed, my shoulders are slightly rounded forwards, and then I'm just going to pin them back. So it's almost like this, just this outside back edge, this back corner, if you like. I'm just bringing that shoulder tip in line with my ear, opening up. Watching that doesn't mean that the ribs pop. Everything else is staying still. And then let's reach the arms up to the ceiling. So this is shoulder drops. So palms facing each other. Collarbone nice and open, your spine just all in that good position, and you're going to this time reach up and really let this whole of this back of your shoulder, so almost from your spine, make it really nice and rounded, and then keeping the arms straight but soft, let the shoulders drop back down. So we're reaching up, rounding as far as you can, and dropping back down. And it's like you're slapping your shoulder blades down. Take a breath in when you reach up, breath out when you drop down. Breath in, breath out to drop down. Great. Okay, let's turn the palms towards your knees. Now let's just start to reach the arms back. As you reach the arms back, so this is classic Pilates exercise, ribcage closure it's called. Keep that ribcage drawing down. Notice that the shoulders the shoulder blades will slide down in your back. I'm not actually trying to touch the floor at this stage. I'm just exploring how far I can go, keeping that rib cage drawn down. Breathing out as I go back, breathing in as I return. This time take your arms all the way back to the floor without letting your wrists flip. Keep the arms nice and straight. Allow your ribs to flare and let those fingertips just touch the floor. And notice my one hand touched quite a bit before the other one did then, so I want my arms to ideally go at the same time. From here, ribs are flaring, the whole of my upper back is completely lifted off of the mat. I'm going to connect my ribs only and notice how, and then release again, notice how that brings my arms up off of the floor. I'm just allowing the weight of my arms to just be there, letting those arms be heavy. If you bend your elbows or flip at the wrists, you're going to easily touch the floor. The idea isn't about touching the floor, it's about letting the weight of those arms, let that rib cage flare, and then use the muscles around the rib cage to draw down. So I'm closing the rib cage down. Notice how that then brings those arms forwards. Because I'm quite tight in my arms here, quite tight in my shoulders. Then I'm going to keep my arms exactly where they are. I'm going to bend, no I'm not actually, sorry. Let's go up to the ceiling. Let's take a different movement. Turn your palms towards your knees. From here we're going to open out the elbows to touch the floor. So we're in that sort of a capital E position. Yeah, not quite, because my hands should be level with my head. But you're making right angles basically. So dropping those elbows down, take them back up. Drop the elbows down, take them back up. Now drop the elbows down, leave them there. This is called window frame arms. You're going to tip the lower arm backwards towards the floor. You could, and again depending on your level of flexibility, you could cheat and do that and let your fingertips touch the floor, as in flip at the wrist. Don't let that happen. Try not to let that happen. Try and keep the arm nice and straight. Your hands have become spatulas. Your whole lower arm is a spatula. So and then you could, from this 90-degree angle, tip forwards, which is quite uncomfortable on the shoulder. So we're looking at the amount of internal and external rotation you have in that shoulder joint. Noticing, so when I go back it's not too bad, I can cope with that quite well. When I go forwards, my sore shoulder really wants to pop and come off of the mat. So I'm trying not to let that happen. And I'm also trying to let both arms go evenly, the same amount, same distance. So let's now tip back for your window frame arms. Now let's take that capital V, the E and the W. So we're going to extend the arms along the floor, straightening arms out into that V. Keep that rib cage drawing down. Bring the elbows, bend the elbows, come back into your capital E. If you can, hovering those elbows off of the floor and letting those that hands and wrist flip back towards the floor. This is tough. We're now going to try and bring those elbows in towards your side for the W. That's quite strong. Capital E, well it is for me anyway. V. So V, E, VE day, 8th of June. Bring the W, bring the elbows in for the W. And you can probably see my hands are coming up now more. That's really quite strong to hold that there. And then open out to the E one more time. Stretch. And come back. And then tuck those elbows in. And come back. And just bring your arms down by your side and have a little relax there. Well done. Shoulder drops, knee, window frame arms, VEW. Great, let's finish off. One more exercise, lying on your tummy.
Nice simple one. We're just going to think about lifting the shoulder tips up, working against gravity. So open up the legs to hip width apart, connect your rib cage down. We're going to start with the backs of the hands on the floor, the tip of your nose just touching the floor, arms relaxed and rested. Allow your shoulder tips to round forwards in what I call Quasimodo style. Just take a moment or two to see if you can let them relax forwards. Sometimes I work with people and they're stuck with the shoulder tips still in the air. Try and let them relax and round all the way forwards. So it's like your shoulder blades have rounded around your rib cage at the back. And then all we're going to do is keep the arms really heavy, hands heavy, elbows heavy. Think of elbows heavy, and you're just going to lift the shoulder tips and then relax back down. I'm keeping my head in the same position. So the tip of my nose is just hovering off the floor. I'm not lifting my chin. I'm keeping the back of the neck nice and long. Shoulder tips only. So you're bringing that shoulder girdle out into that nice straight line. And if you think about it, again, it's that same thing we did at the very beginning. Pinning the shoulders back a little bit so that they come in line with your plumb line, with your ear. But this is harder, this is tough, because we're working against gravity. You'll want to bend your elbows, you'll want to do the work with your triceps. Try not to let that happen. Great job. Finish off with one more if you can. You've lifted those shoulder tips up. You're going to lift the whole arm up, rotate the palms down, thumbs outwards. Push the pubic bone into the mat a little bit, lift your back a little tiny bit, reach your fingertips towards your feet, and let's just take some golf ball size circles at your fingertips, but moving from the shoulder joint. Keep the back of the neck long, keep breathing. Little fingers circling in towards the body. Fantastic. Good job, everyone. Come up onto all fours. And just finish with some nice spine circles. Hopefully that feels quite nice all around your shoulders and your upper back. The test will probably be tomorrow and the next day that it'll just feel a little bit looser. Great job, thank you so much for joining me, and I will hope to see you again soon.